let's send it down to Dexter's Diner for Diner Talk.
Welcome to Diner Talk. In this segment, me and Mark are down here in Dexter's Diner, and we are just going to be sitting here having a nice discussion about current things going on in Star Wars. This time around, we are going to be talking about Ahsoka Episode 4 and 5. Episode 6 is out at the time that you're seeing this. Hopefully it's great. I hope you enjoy it. But currently, we're only talking about 4 and 5. We have 6 main bullet points and topics to nail down on and talk about. So, Mark, why don't we just go ahead and get into the discussion here? Unfortunately, Dex can't make an appearance. We're actually here late, and we're gonna be the ones closing up. He's nice enough to let us come down here and do this. So, shout out to him. Wish he was here, but it's unfortunate. Okay, so the first thing I kind of want to talk about, we're gonna start from the 4th episode and go into the 5th. The 5th is mainly the one that's gonna have the most discussion, just because it's probably one of the biggest episodes in Star Wars show history.
Yep.
At least so far. But first main thing that I had was Sabine's decision. So her decision to go ahead and go with Balin, go with Morgan Elsbeth, and go find Thrawn in her hopes to find Ezra. That's kind of the point that they're going with there. And I have a couple things written down here. It's very broad, but is she right or wrong to do this, do you think? Just an initial question to ask you.
It's tough because it's like, I want to say... obviously, I want to say no, because you're basically running the risk of bringing Thrawn back into the fold, and we all know how dangerous Thrawn can be.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, we're gonna get Ezra hopefully back.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah,
they're just
that makes it good for the watcher, but
yeah,
it, like,
they're hoping.
Put yourself in her shoes within the story. Like,
yeah, no, I get her, like, where mentally she's at, obviously, because it's tough to just let, like, a close friend go.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if I was in her shoes, I might have to just bite the bullet and not take that risk of going and getting Thrawn, because he caused problems for them, like, forever, until Ezra was able to outsmart him. Finally outsmart him.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was a good idea, obviously, to go, but as a viewer, I'm not gonna complain about it too much.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta think of it also as, to me, it's the wrong decision. Obviously it's made clear that it's the wrong decision, because of what it can and will lead to. But I also just, Ezra would not want her to make that decision.
Exactly.
Like, and it's tough.
You're
You're put in a tough spot
decision.
there.
It is such a tough spot. A spot that I don't want to be in, of course.
Yeah, it's kind of tragic, but I mean, I hope that she kind of shows some regret for it, which I think she will. And then also, she doesn't even know that Ahsoka's alive still, or I guess technically she wasn't alive for a little bit, but
yeah, no, she definitely doesn't think she's alive right now. Anyway,
yeah. So that's where that's at. That's my whole kind of thought process on that. What's your next topic that we got going?
Well, my next topic here, I mainly wanted to talk about Balin versus Ahsoka. I mean, this whole duel that they had, I thought was great. I mean, you could really see in Balin, like you could see his like, I don't want to say anger because it's not anger, but he has a lot of power to him in his strikes.
Yeah.
And it was quite interesting because we talked about this too. Ahsoka only using one lightsaber in that duel. Like it makes sense, I get it, because you're one on one, so you don't need like two of them in like a one on one duel. But
Mhm.
I thought that was interesting as well to see her fight with one lightsaber. But I mean, the whole with the map in the background, and man, it was just super cool to see that. And Balin is, I think he's one of the coolest dudes hands down in Star Wars. I mean, he
Yeah.
is just so cool. But how'd you feel about this duel?
I mean, I thought it was great. I was going to point out, since you were talking about her using one saber,
Hmm.
I saw someone talking about it, about how it seems as if she is only using two sabers when there's multiple enemies. That is, within the show so far, that's the only time we've seen her use two sabers. Like, on, is it Corellia that they go to?
I I
I
want to
believe
say
I believe
Corellia.
it's Corellia,
I want to
and
say Corellia.
when the one of the HK droids and then Marok, since there's two of them, she initially pulls
Yeah.
out two sabers. So then she's fighting Marok with two sabers eventually because they destroy the droid. But it starts
Hmm.
out as that. But
Yeah.
then when she's fighting Marok in the forest, when Sabine is fighting Shin, she's only using one saber as well, and then goes into Balin only using one saber.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't. It's weird, but I I mean I somewhat understand it. I guess it's not. It's unexpected out of her, so maybe it's kind of putting them on their toes. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it does feel a little unexpected from her because we're so used to seeing her with the two.
Yeah.
Like when she was, well, I'm not gonna talk about that, I guess, because that'll be for later. But I will just talk about that later. But yeah, no, it's we usually see her fight with two usually. So to see her fight with one, like you said, throughout the whole series as well, it's a little surprising. But
Hmm.
I can kind of understand it though. It makes sense.
Yeah. But overall, to just kind of cap off the episode 4 discussion a little bit. Again, Hu Yang, amazing in the episode. I mean,
Yeah.
just great. We got to saw him in action, pretty sweet. Uh, we were true. We were correct in the last diner talk. We talked about Marok at the very end,
Yep.
saying we think he's just his own character, and we hope that he's not, someone that we actually know. And turns out he's most likely Night Sister magic. It's not fully explained, but that's what it kind of seems like.
Yeah.
So happy about that.
Very.
And then at the very end, we get the reveal of Anakin. Ahsoka is in what we believe to be the world between worlds. I don't think it could be anything else, but
Hmm.
the way that she gets in there is not like we've seen anyone else go into the world between worlds. Like we don't see
Yeah.
anyone pull her in. It's not that no one didn't,
Hmm.
not that someone didn't, but we just don't see it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
then the eventual way that she gets out is also not like we've seen before. So,
Yeah.
but you got to think it's the world between worlds,
It looks like it.
which we will have that discussion. Actually, Mark, let's go ahead into your next point because I think it'll work better with the continuity of the episode.
Okay. Okay. Well, now my second topic that I wanted to bring to the table was mainly talking about the flashbacks and the world between worlds.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
that
there's so much. Yeah, I get. Yeah, yeah. But there's so much to unpack here. I mean, we can start with the flashbacks, for example. I mean, that seeing live action Clone Wars was just absolutely insane. The more like I slept on it, and the more I think about it, I don't know, man. Like I was hype about it, and I still am hype about it because I thought it was really cool. but now I don't know if I'd want to see a live action Clone Wars. It just kind of it just doesn't really give me like the Clone Wars feel. You know what I mean?
This
Like it's
is
just
this is exactly what I wanted to talk about, Mark. I love
yeah,
that this is the way that your head is going.
yeah, because I really wanted to see it, and I talked about it for a while. I thought it'd be cool. We seen it. I thought it was cool, but after a couple of days of sitting on it, I don't know. I still think it was cool that we got to see that and see Anakin kind of reteaching Ahsoka certain things and making sure she's ready for the journey ahead. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of iffy about a live action Clone Wars if they. I don't think they'll. I don't know though. I say that I don't think they'll do it, but I don't know.
I
I really
don't think they will. But
but
I
yeah.
think I think the thing about the live action Clone Wars, about why people want to see it and why we would want to see it or wanted to in the past,
Mm-hmm.
is we wanted to see the live action characters that we know, like Anakin with Hayden Christensen, Obi-Wan with Ewan McGregor, like, and Tamara Morrison as any of the clones.
Yeah,
We
Padme
wanted to
is
see
Natalie Portman.
that, but we didn't necessarily want to see the animated characters like Ahsoka in live action.
Yeah,
Like, I think
exactly.
it's just that other way around. So I think it just doesn't give that Clone Wars feel because that time period and those characters in that specific time period are tied to the voice actors. And I think making a live, like a full live action Clone Wars series, or overdoing it, is kind of disrespectful to those voice actors, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because they do such an amazing job. A lot of people's Anakin is Matt Lanner, like,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to give it to him. He
Oh,
did great as it. I think
yeah, no,
it's
I thought his performance was great, and I was going into it, all Hayden's my Anakin, and he still kind of is because that's who I represent Anakin as. But
mhm.
nah, he did a phenomenal job in the Clone Wars with Anakin.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just it's tough. I don't necessarily not want to see a little bit more of it,
Yeah,
because one thing that I was going to bring up with the flashbacks is in our reaction to the episode. Go ahead and check it out on YouTube if you haven't already, on the Star Wars CS channel. But obviously, like, as we're watching it, I'm kind of freaking out because it's just so surreal.
yeah,
And then you kind of had the realization when you slept on it. For some reason, I had the realization once the episode ended,
yeah. No,
like,
you were
of just all this
definitely
stuff.
yeah.
I wasn't. I felt like we could have gotten more.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, I mean, like, we never saw Tamara Morrison. We didn't see any clones. We didn't even see a clone's face. Like, not
Yeah,
even just Rex, but we didn't see a clone's face. They intentionally covered it up. Whether that was they didn't want to pay Tamara Morrison, or they just didn't think it was uh, important for the plot. And then also Ewan McGregor, we could have seen him as Obi-Wan in it.
yeah,
But
you didn't.
to their uh, it made sense to not see them because the flashbacks are a teaching lesson between Ahsoka and Anakin. That's the main point. That's what's focused on, and I think that's fine. But when it comes to like a Clone Wars flashback, I think that's just, I wasn't underwhelmed, but I just kind of thought of the possibility of they really could have, like, destroyed the internet with it, because they
Oh
already
yeah,
did, and it would have been even crazier if they had even more like that.
yeah. But I do kind of see the side of them not wanting to do that because,
Mm-hmm.
like you were kind of saying, it would take away from that teaching moment
Yeah.
between Ahsoka and Anakin. So
Uh, Another thing with the flashbacks are such a big part that I'm gonna definitely bring up a lot of things about it.
mhm.
The other thing, I've seen some criticism for it. I've seen
Yeah,
explanations for it, and I'm kind of like, I see both sides. But with the flashbacks, all you see is smoke.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally everything that you see.
Yeah.
Somehow they are just completely covered in smoke. And
Yeah, I thought that was a little weird, but
the explanations I've seen are like, it's supposed to be like focusing in on those moments. So it's like Ahsoka's memories like blocking out everything else.
yeah.
And like it's very vague past that point, so it's just smoke. You can't see anything within that memory outside of that, which
Yeah, that makes sense.
I get that. It's more of like a fog of war thing around them. It's very honing in on what's going on within that small area. But it was also very obvious to me that it's budget.
Oh yeah, no,
Like, just to
it's
keep it
definitely
blunt.
it's budget, but like they just came up with the reason for it, which it makes sense, obviously,
Because
but
we talked about, in the last Diner Talk, we talked about the production quality within those first 3 episodes. Something I noticed as soon as the flashback started, I felt like the production quality dropped within the flashbacks. Just
I
within the
agree.
flashbacks, everything else is great, but for
Hmm.
some reason they just feel a little bit off with
No,
the
I
rest of
agree.
the production quality.
Yeah, I do. I agree too.
And whether that's because of like the smoke and everything, or just the costumes, the whatever it may be, I don't know. It was just something felt off with the quality of it, and it just didn't feel connected in that regard.
Hmm.
Uh, and I think the last sort of thing I want to bring up specifically about the flashbacks, kind of pose a question to you as well. Do you think that these were fan service, not necessarily fan service, but were they necessary? Were they necessary to the plot?
Fan service gets thrown around quite a bit, and
Too
I
too
feel
much, in my opinion.
yeah, I agree as well because I feel like it gets misused.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think this is fan service because I mean, he's trying to go back and teach her the lessons from before. That's kind of the vibe I was getting,
Mm-hmm.
like lessons throughout the Clone Wars that he was trying to teach her. But obviously, she wasn't really like grasping onto that at the moment. Like live or die, like that's kind of what he was, Anakin was talking about. So that's kind of how I thought about it as. So I would not say it's fan service at all. I think it actually is it's a good way to kind of reteach a lesson. I think
Yeah.
like it's an interesting way to reteach a lesson. That's kind of the way I look at it.
I don't think it's fan service because it is doing this like big thing that you know is going to get a reaction out of the fans with a purpose. It does have a purpose. You're seeing this teaching moment, which I guess this can actually, I no, I don't want to lead it into our next topic because I do have one final thing to say, but
I
it's
also have something to bring up as well, really quick.
it's like it's teaching a lesson, like you're saying, and we'll talk about the lesson here in a few minutes, but it's just if you're gonna have that, I think it just makes sense, and you're pleasing the fans because the thing is, I think people would have still been high on the show if they weren't there,
Yeah, for sure.
but they're there, they're great, and they greatly increase Ahsoka's character development just within that one episode. It turns
Exactly.
her into a completely different person than she was before she went into the world between worlds and now that she's out. Like, she's completely different. What was the last thing you wanted to say?
I just wanted to bring up towards the end of those flashbacks when Hayden was finally done and he had to teach her lesson the hard way. Ignites the red lightsaber and just the duel between them right there was so good. And then when he like kicked her back out and they went back in the world between worlds, and he came out of the smoke and he did that little shoulder shrug, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And it had like the Vader, like it was flashing in Vader and Anakin. That might be top 5 moment for me, maybe top 3.
Yeah.
That was just, I got chills watching that, bro.
Dude, and
Chills.
I love the, like, another thing I didn't mention is I love that this version of Ahsoka being live action, this younger version of Ahsoka really shows how young she is at those points. I feel like you don't really get that feeling in the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
She is incredibly young.
Oh yeah.
So I love that, but with that that duel, when it starts, when it is Siege of Mandalore Ahsoka versus Vader, she gets demolished.
Oh, she
like
doesn't
she
stand a
does,
chance.
it's like it's only like 10 to 15 seconds. Does not stand a chance.
Not even a close
Kicks
chance.
her back into the world between worlds. It's then her grown self, and she puts up a fight and wins the fight. Like, I thought that was a great detail, that she just gets unreal. Like, it's crazy that she did not stand a single chance.
Yeah.
The power in the swings.
Oh, brutal.
Then he pulls the move that he did to Obi-Wan, like holding the arm back.
Dude, that was so cool.
There's also one moment, I don't know if you've seen it, but right before he kicks her, she like it so he does that move, like holding her arm back, and then like kind of throws her back, and she swings at him. It goes through him.
Okay,
I don't know.
Didn't see that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's intentional or if it's a mistake. I would assume it's intentional. But yeah, she swings and it straight up goes through his neck.
Okay, I didn't even see that. I'm gonna have to rewatch that.
Yeah,
I'm sure I can find it, but
it's weird. But I think that would be like, if it is intentional, I kind of understand it, because it's like showing that Anakin actually isn't there. Like, she can't do anything to Anakin.
Exactly.
So that was something I wanted to point out. But yeah, I mean, just absolutely crazy duel. Last thing for this topic that I was going to bring up, since we brought up the World Between Worlds, I genuinely would like if there was a confirmation on if it is the World Between Worlds, and why. If it is the World Between Worlds, which I'm like, it has to be.
It looks like kind of like how it did in Rebels. Like, it looks similar. That's kind of wrong.
I would like the explanation of why it worked the way it worked, or how it worked that way compared to how it did in Rebels, you know?
Yeah, because it's like a cheat code for her at this point. We've talked about this, where it's like,
yeah, and it just seemed like random that she ended up there.
Yeah, and I don't know if we'll ever get an explanation, because I want to say, like, you know, maybe Anakin pulled her in, but
then how does she get out? Because like, it's shown in Rebels that you have to jump back through the port or go back through the portal, but she just like, it just turns into water, and it puts her
under the water,
back into the water. Yeah, like, so
I don't know.
It's a weird way to use it, but
yeah.
Hopefully we do get some. Maybe we'll get some discussion with Hu Yang in episode 6. So we'll see there. But I guess to get now into my next topic, which we can segue well into this, Ahsoka's lesson, which it's kind of just the question of, what is the lesson? Because I think that's another discussion that I've seen about this episode, is, and it's a reason why people are talking about, were the flashbacks fan service, because they're saying, was there really a lesson?
There's always a lesson.
Like, what's the lesson that he's really teaching? Because it's not very it's very vague. It's not said directly what the real lesson actually is. So I've seen a bunch of different discussions about what it is. We've got legacy, which to me that's probably the biggest thing. Anakin, he tells Ahsoka that her legacy is built from all of the ones before her, like everyone before her. Which, again, Mark, we talk about this scene so much on on the Galactic Core, but the scene in Episode 8, it just continues to get better. Of Yoda saying, "They are what we grow beyond."
Yeah, no, it's that scene is just phenomenal, honestly. But
or we are what they grow beyond. Sorry, I got it wrong. Yeah. But essentially saying that you're from this legacy, he has passed down his knowledge to her, which is essentially the knowledge from Obi-Wan, from Qui-Gon, from Count Dooku, from Yoda. Like it's built, it's all of this knowledge built down, and it's her time to pass it on to Sabine.
Which is a crazy lineage, by the way. That's insane.
But then, Ahsoka kind of goes against it and is like, yeah, Anakin, you do have a legacy, but it's of death and God, what's the other word that she uses? Death and destruction. Did she use destruction?
Or
something like that. But it's, very negative connotation. Which, for good reason, she says that. But I think then that turns it into her learning that she is this legacy of everything before her, but her legacy is also her own.
Yeah.
And everything before it doesn't necessarily matter to her own legacy. Just because Anakin turned into what he did doesn't mean she will, and doesn't mean someone that she teaches will.
Yeah.
Because she kind of goes through that with Grogu in The Mandalorian. Like, she doesn't want to teach him because she is afraid of what could happen. And that's kind of that's why I feel like this is the biggest point of the lesson, is she then gets out of the world between worlds and she is at peace, essentially. Like, she has come to that realization that I have this written down. She's not the cause of what Anakin became.
Yeah, and she's not destined for that same fate as well.
Yes.
I get what you mean. I do think that's a big part of what he was trying to teach her, for sure.
And also, another teaching point is, and this is in the early flashback, the flashback of early Clone Wars, when she's saying, like, I only know how to fight. Like, that's the only thing I know. That's all I've been taught. And Anakin is kind of saying, like, you just have to adjust to the times. We were keepers of the peace, now we're soldiers. I have to teach you how to fight. And I think that's another realization that she has, where she realizes that that's what she's teaching Sabine. And that's the only thing she's been teaching Sabine, really.
It's the only thing she knows.
And she now realizes that that's not what it means to be a Jedi. And she needs to teach Sabine differently. And I think the way I kind of thought about it was, it reminded me of the original trilogy and how Luke is taught.
Yep.
Luke, in A New Hope, Obi-Wan is teaching him, like, the basic, like, lightsaber stuff, but then is telling him to, feel the Force and have that guide him. And initially, like, already catches on right away. But then past that, you don't see any saber training. But that's like all we've seen with Sabine, really.
Yeah,
Sabine's already a warrior. She doesn't need to learn how to fight.
she knows how to fight.
She needs to learn how to be a Jedi. And Luke goes from that small lesson with Obi-Wan to then going to Yoda, does not pull out the lightsaber. Like,
No, they
there is
don't.
no
Yeah, they need.
lightsaber training. It is just completely a force lesson of how, like,
Yeah,
learning how to be a Jedi. And to be honest, that's kind of shown in Return of the Jedi. He is not the greatest with the with the lightsaber. He's just kind of swinging it around like crazy.
yeah,
So, but everyone knows how powerful of a Jedi Luke is, and I think it's mostly because of his connection with the Force.
yeah. I
And
go ahead, my bad.
it's just like that's. I feel like Ahsoka has definitely realized that now. That
Yeah,
she doesn't. She was taught like that because of the time period, and that's not how to teach a Jedi.
yeah. Being a Jedi is, it's more than just sitting there and swinging a saber.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, it's. I mean, this is why I think that Yoda's like got to be the greatest teacher
Yeah.
in all of Star Wars. Like you said, he doesn't have Luke pull out the lightsaber once. It's about feeling the Force around you, keeping an open mind, not acting on your feelings, like just kind of like clearing your mind, and you're just the only thing is the Force. That's really what it is to be a Jedi. It kind of like a summary, I guess, not like a full in depth explanation, but that's kind of
Yeah.
what I think about being a Jedi is there's nothing but the Force. So that's why I really like that, like her realizing that, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a really cool lesson. It's a cool way to teach it, I guess.
Yeah. So I think Ahsoka definitely learned something within this. I think all of that, all of the flashbacks and everything, just to encompass this whole entire last couple points, it makes sense to do it. And
Hmm.
could it have been done a different way? Yes, but it was so cool, and I think it was just it could have been done a different way, but this was the perfect way to do it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So I'm glad it happened. I do think there's a lesson. Obviously, we just kind of explained our thoughts on the lesson, but now we can finally move on and go ahead to your final point here.
All right, well, my third and final point, kind of want to talk about Jason Syndulla's future here, because it's a little unknown, but he has shown signs of kind of connecting with the Force, and like him hearing Ahsoka and Anakin like out in the water, and him like hearing the lightsabers. I
That
Go ahead.
that's another like thing that makes like the world between worlds thing weird.
Dude, it's I don't understand it, and I don't know if we ever will.
So that yeah, that's what makes me think like is it the world between worlds? Like it
Mm,
has to be, because what
it
else would
looks
it
like
be?
it. It looks like it.
Yeah, what else would it be? But they're just kind of changing the rules on it a little bit.
Yeah, and
Uh,
this planet is so weird because it's
yeah,
got like the world between worlds, and you can hear like he heard it, and then you got the pearls flying around on this planet. Like this planet is like weird.
yeah.
So I don't know, but anyway, I'm kind of interested to see like if they expand on Jason's character a little bit. I'm
Hmm.
hoping they really do, and I'm hoping we actually get to see him eventually down the line, whether it's Ahsoka or Sabine, or kind of him training with the Force and seeing like if because he already kind of seems like his dad a little bit, like Kanan. He
Oh
kind of
yeah,
has characteristics of Kanan, which I absolutely love because I love Kanan. He is a true embodiment of what a Jedi should be. Um, so I'm kind of hoping that they kind of stick with his character because I think his character could be really good here, and try to see him evolve and him become a Jedi, become a even a greater Jedi than his father. Hopefully, I
hmm
mean, I think that would be great. So
Yeah, I that moment of him and Hera standing listening to the water. I don't know if you picked up on it. I didn't pick up on it initially, but the music at that time you can like slightly hear Kanan's theme,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty sweet. I
Yeah, no,
thought
that
that
was
was cool.
awesome.
But it's just it's such an underrated moment from that episode, I think.
I agree.
I also don't know if you noticed, but he has like the same pauldron, like the same armor as Kanan.
Oh, really? Yeah, I didn't pick
Yes,
up on that. That's
it's
actually
like the
sick,
exact
dude.
same thing. It's
Oh,
awesome.
dude, that's so sick.
So yeah, that's I would love to see more of Jason. I'm expecting we're gonna see more of him. But I think it's cool that it's it's unintentional connection to the Force,
Yeah,
and I love it.
which goes to show that he seems to be pretty kind of strong with the Force. I think he could be
Hmm.
a pretty powerful Jedi here. Hopefully,
Yeah, and I'm wondering if they're gonna kind of hint at like Sabine being the teacher essentially.
that would be really
Uh,
cool.
but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess the final main point here, we can maybe after this maybe talk about some miscellaneous things, but final thing was just character performances all around. Specifically, like you got to talk about the highlight of Hayden.
Oh man, he every time he's on my screen, it's a highlight. So
This this might be his best Anakin performance.
I would agree.
Genuinely.
I agree. I think he nailed this performance. I think he nailed every performance, but this one's like has a different feel to it. Like he really does feel like a teacher in this moment.
Mm-hmm. And in the flashbacks, it he definitely tried to make his voice sound closer to Matt Lanner, and
Hmm. That's
it's
cool.
scary actually,
That was cool.
because I always thought that they didn't sound similar whatsoever.
Yeah.
But in them, like he did something where he definitely he made it seem like it, and just him, I just the little mannerisms that he has, like you talk like the shoulder shrug as he's walking,
Aw,
like
so
stuff like
cool.
that, like is stuff you don't really pick up on, but if it wasn't there, it would seem weird.
Hmm.
Him saying like Ahsoka saying this is the Clone Wars, and him saying no kidding, like
Yeah, no kidding.
that's such a Clone Wars Anakin thing to say, but
Yeah,
it's
dude.
Hayden saying it.
It was
It's
perfect.
like I think it was written great, and he absolutely killed it,
Yes.
knocked it out of the park. He obviously uh the saber fights, he has not dropped the ball whatsoever. He's
Dude.
uh it's just like 18 years ago.
Dude, it feels just like 2005 watching him with a lightsaber. It was beautiful. It's so beautiful to watch. He hasn't lost a step at all, and I love to see it. I just love to see it.
And then I wanted to talk about young Ahsoka and current Ahsoka, which I wrote down old, which is funny because Anakin says, "Oh, you look old."
Yeah, that was dude, that's so funny.
Uh, but I think again they're both of those are great performances. I think Rosario
Oh yeah.
Dawson is doing amazing, and now that she's kind of flipped and seems more like the younger Ahsoka after this whole teaching lesson, like there's so much life brought back into the character, and she was like she was how she was before that for a reason,
Hmm.
and kind of having the weight lifted off her shoulders with that lesson now brings her back into kind of a character that we really know and have connected to. So I think that's amazing. Young Ahsoka is great.
Hmm.
Uh, like I said earlier, really shows the age, and just I think also another great performance. How are you feeling about Ahsoka?
Oh, I'm loving Ahsoka's character right now. Rosario Dawson is doing a great job. Um, and I really liked young Ahsoka's performance as well. I've seen some stuff on Twitter about people not really liking it, like the young Ahsoka performance, and I don't know why. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I thought she did a great job playing young Ahsoka. I mean, it it obviously didn't look like Ahsoka, obviously, but like you said, it kind of shows her age in that moment, and
Yeah.
like it wasn't too far off of how like Ahsoka would react in these moments. I think like
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, this is the Clone Wars, and her being all shocked about being back in the Clone Wars, and I don't know. It's just I have no complaints with it whatsoever. I thought the performances were great from both.
Yeah, and I guess final performance that I kind of wanted to mainly talk about, which I mean we kind of already talked about it, but it was Balin. I wanted to mention just so amazing,
Mm-hmm.
unreal. To be honest, it's just
It's top notch.
yeah. I don't think they could have picked anyone better to play the role.
Not
It
at
is
all.
absolutely tragic that he can't see like how much the Star Wars community loves what he's
Mm-hmm.
done with the character.
Now Balin is, like I said, he's becoming one of my favorite characters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Ray Stevenson, that's the name of the actor,
I
right?
yes, I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's sad to see that Ray can't be here to see such the positive response that he's gotten to this character, but I'm glad he got to play this role. I'm sure he had a lot of fun with this role. I can tell he hit it out of the park with this role.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say enough good things about him. He plays it perfectly down to a T.
Yeah. Out of like complaints for the show, I don't think I would have a single one about any of the performances.
No, the performances are phenomenal.
Because off the top of my head, I don't even think I have any complaints anyway. But
Oh no, I don't.
if I had one, it definitely wouldn't be about the actors' performances.
Mm-hmm.
So I could tell you that. Um, I thought I had some sort of general points that I wanted to talk about, but they're kind of escaping my mind at the moment. So, is there anything that we didn't really cover here that you kind of at least wanted to maybe bring up?
Um, not much. Just Hu Yang has been great. Some more character performances. Hera is great as well.
Oh,
Chop.
that was one that I missed. I definitely wanted to
Mm-hmm.
talk about Hera. I think that's next level as well.
Yeah, no, her performance is great. I think that character is like the way she acts is just
She's spot on.
perfect. It's perfect. You couldn't do it better, I don't think. And Chopper has also been really great as well.
Yeah.
I will say.
I mean that one was kind of a given that it was gonna be good.
Oh, dude, Chopper is. I love Chopper. He's so funny.
But I mean we can go ahead and call the diner talk there. But I do think I still have some things that are escaping my mind, like I said. So I apologize if we didn't cover everything and kind of didn't clarify on some things. We do our best around here. We do
Yeah,
our best.
there's a lot to talk about in these two episodes.
Yes,
It's kind of
these
hard to
two
nail everything.
episodes were very filled with a whole bunch of things. A lot
Yeah.
of a lot of different callbacks. I guess one last thing, just because I said about the callbacks, I don't know if you probably have picked it up because you've seen things about it. Right at the start, when when Anakin and Ahsoka are about to start fighting, and Ahsoka says, "I won't fight you." It's a
Yeah.
callback to
Mm-hmm.
Luke saying it, and then
Yeah, he
Anakin
goes,
says, "I've heard that
heard
before."
that before. Yep.
Like, oh my god,
Nah,
this
that
stuff
was
like that
insane.
is super subtle, but it's just such a good line.
It's perfect.
So that just from the intricate little details, I think they killed it on the fifth episode. Fourth episode was amazing as well. But I'm so excited to see what the sixth and then I'm assuming 7 and 8 are going to be just next level Star Wars, to be honest.
Getting Thrawn, hopefully getting Ezra. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're only like I feel like we're at a high right now, like at the peak. But dude, we could keep going up. Like,
Yeah.
we could easily keep going up from here, and I'm excited.
But yeah, that'll conclude the diner talk. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. We will be back in the next Galactic Core episode with another diner talk. It's going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be about Ahsoka. We're going to be talking about some stories within the new Return of the Jedi from a Certain Point of View book. 40 short stories from 40 authors. We're going to pick a couple to talk about, and we're going to go off of that. And that will come out the day after the Ahsoka finale. That's the reason we're doing it, because our next diner talk, when we talk about Ahsoka, which will be in 2 episodes from now.
Yep.
So this is the 7th episode of the Galactic Core. In the 9th episode of the Galactic Core, we will be talking about Ahsoka, just the full series as a whole. Going to be a great one. So looking forward to that. But the next one's going to be good as well. So make sure you tune in for that. Again, thank you to Dex for letting us be down here in the diner. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here, but it's just it's great being down here in the diner with you, Mark.
Oh yeah, no, I love being down here. And don't worry, Dex, we'll get this place spotless in no time.
For sure. And we got to get out of here soon, because I got to get to bed. I know you got to go to Coruscant U in the morning. So
actually, I get Fridays off at Coruscant University.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
I'm gassed about that. So
we might have to stay here a little bit longer then.
Hey, I'm down to chill.
But with that, we will go ahead and end off this episode, this segment of Diner Talk, and we will send you back to the boys.